Hello, AfterBuzzers. Welcome to the Roots After Show, where we will cover episodes 1 and 2. Join us for more.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Wow. Welcome, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the Roots After Show. What an incredible 2 episodes we've had of the Roots series so far. My name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shaka Strong. I'm joined here by my 2 lovely co-hosts.
What's going on, everybody? And shout out to Kendrick Lamar for this King Kunta song. He knew what was coming. It's your girl, McCall Hall. You can find me on social media when sports and pop culture collide at McCall Hall.
I'm Erica J. Green. You can find me on all social medias, Erica J. A-Y-E Green.
Wow. So yeah, let's just dive right into it.
Let's get into it.
First of all, had any of you seen the original Roots?
Yes.
It had been years.
The Roots, Queen, yeah, it has been years, but yes.
See, I hadn't seen the original Roots. I knew some of the iconic scenes, LeVar Burton, I knew all of that. So I really came to this with fresh eyes.
Okay.
What was your kind of impression of it just off the bat, having seen it and having seen it, I guess, some time ago?
Well, it's all about timing, right? So when I first saw it, I was much younger. While it was difficult, I don't think I was able to process it the way I was able to process it today.
Definitely.
I'm an adult now. I was probably 10 or 12 when I saw it.
Yeah, I don't remember anything really resonating with me when I initially saw it, because it must have been like when I was in grade school. But those images are so powerful, even back in the day to today. No matter what type of cinematography that they add to it, it's still just impactful. I'm sure that's what they were going for.
Yeah, and I love this new version, because something LeVar Burton said, kind of why he was on board with it, was because people had seen the old one and it just felt out of date in terms of the way it looked. So it wasn't really resonating with this generation.
Yeah.
And so I love that this is an updated look at, what really took place.
Yeah. And shout out to LeVar Burton for, executive producing this one and being very hands-on with it.
Did you see the cameo? He had a little cameo. I forget what scene it was. I was like, that was him.
That's
He was
hard.
there.
I saw some familiar faces.
Yeah, he
sprinkled
co-signed.
in
I like
there.
that. He went hard
and
for
isn't the guy, I can't think of his name, Kirby? He
Malachi
a producer
Kirby.
too on their show.
Yeah.
So that's great that everyone who has their hands on it are hands on it
literally
with this type of project. You know.
Yeah.
And the premiere brought in 5.3 million viewers, which is great. I think it's the highest miniseries on the History Channel in the past 3 years. Something like
it's
that.
good to get that kind of numbers, especially in this age of social media where you get all your entertainment from Instagram and this and that.
Well, they knew what they were doing. Roots was like one of the
biggest, I think,
biggest watched shows, 100
like
million for their
140,
finale on
crazy?
ABC. That's crazy. I'm like, ABC.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Never this day and age on ABC, but
so I don't know. For me, that first episode. You know about slavery. We all obviously have our feelings about it, but I was really struck by watching people go from free to slave.
Yeah.
And whenever I think about slavery, I think of slaves who then became free. But you forget there were a generation of people who were born free. So to them, to be in slavery was just so foreign.
They couldn't fathom that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I wonder. I think that's where kind of maybe Kunta gets his fighting spirit, because he was born a free man.
Yeah, and I don't know why that's surprising to the capturers. Why are you surprised that we're going to be defiant? I'm saying we. I'm sorry. I have to stop myself. That they're going to be so defiant when you're taking them. That's like taking me out of my classes and being like, you're going to go. I had a dream about that too, guys. I'll tell y'all later.
You had a dream about it?
Yes, a crazy dream in college.
That's a nightmare.
That. And that's crazy how that can still even affect us today. We don't know anything about that. We know that our ancestors were, played a major part in helping us be where we are today. But it's crazy how these images are ingrained literally in our head. And for me to have like a crazy dream like that, which that could never happen.
But
again.
it's part of that cultural history.
It happened.
Yeah, it's almost like in that cultural DNA where it's a possibility. It feels that way, right?
And Kunta Kinte, not only was he free, but he was a warrior. He was beyond free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For his culture back in Africa,
he was at the top of his tribe.
He was at the top of his tribe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's beyond being free.
Yeah, and I think that's where, obviously as a warrior, that's where he gets his fighting spirit. So I love that episode 1 really laid down for you the way he kind of was brought up to always fight, to not accept, defeat. Because, by episode 2, I'm thinking, man, he just won't stop. He's always looking for a way out. Yeah. But that's just who he is.
And also, I liked how they also showed that the slaves weren't dumb animals, just property that you can just walk over, not think nothing of. They were educated. We had our religions, we had our beliefs, and I keep saying our.
But you
it's almost impossible to watch
Exactly.
this show and be of African descent and not take
have
on
that sort
that
of-
connection and identity. I mean, my fist was in the air the whole time.
I was fighting back tears. Literally, I was like, I don't want to cry, but don't watch this show if you're wearing makeup, because I was fighting it back. I was like, man, it still hits you right there. But
Yeah, there was that boat ride over from Africa to here where you really see them in the chains, in the galleys. That was like, you really got it. Like, this was going to be a new life for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how do you guys think it might have been for them to just relate to that, a new life? It's just, you have to separate. You're not going to see your parents again. You're not going to see anything.
yeah, I think change is hard for anyone.
Yeah.
But like to go to such an extreme change,
Yeah.
where your life. One thing that really just keeps with me when I think about those days is like not ever knowing when you're gonna die. This is not, I'm going to Disneyland for a day and I'm just gonna have an adventure. No, every day is waking up and not knowing when you are going to die, closing your eyes and not knowing someone can just come in here and slit my throat because they can.
And not even not knowing when you're going to die, but not having a real ability to appreciate the day you were born.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is a
Anything, yeah.
birthday?
Or your family, because what I was struck by, so you get Kunti, he's coming over on the ship, and so he's leaving his family for good.
Yeah.
And then he has a child, and now she has this child by the end of episode 2. It's this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And then you find out that his wife had a previous family too.
Yeah.
And I was just struck by the loss of family for the slaves.
We'll get into it. I mean, it makes me angry, but the one thing I want to go back to about the scene where they're on the ship,
Yeah.
it's not like they were sitting on a Carnival cruise line
Yeah.
with, warm towels. They are literally wearing nothing in terrible conditions. It's change. It's absolutely insane and chaotic.
Yeah.
I mean, your mind can't even begin to process what's going on at that point.
And that's what struck me about that whole scene, was the brutality of it. Was I understood the slavery and I understood the economic thing, but I didn't understand why they couldn't treat them with a level of humanity.
Because they knew. They
Yeah.
knew because it's human nature.
Yeah.
I'm involved in something that is uncomfortable, and I have the physical ability to revolt, to leave the situation if I want to. Those white masters, they understood that.
Yeah.
So you got to keep them in check somehow.
Exactly. And not only that, it's just like how people treat animals sometimes. When people are brutal to animals, it's like, if that's all you see a person as is an animal, why treat them anymore?
Yeah.
Such. Why treat them like they're a human being when you've put it in your head that this is the animal, it's property.
Yeah.
So I can treat it any type of way, which I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah,
How you see another human being just because the color of their skin, you're like, well, I'm going to treat you less than.
Well, it's such a learned behavior. I think we saw it a little bit with episode 2 with Missy, where Missy, especially as a little girl, thinks she's being so kind to Kizzy. Oh, I'm giving you my dress. I spilled something on it. I can't have it. So here you go. But it was a childlike innocence, but also you see her learning that, oh, here's this person who might feel equal to me, but she is definitely lesser than.
But going back just a little bit, slavery was going on in Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We see this a little bit.
With the warring tribes.
Yeah. But what makes it so terrible is the fact that when it came here, it became based on color.
Yeah.
And that's just what breaks my heart.
Yeah,
I mean, slavery is wrong regardless.
Yeah.
But bringing them over
But there was
here-
almost some sort of equitability to
Yeah.
it when it wasn't just about color. It might have been about warring tribal factions or this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
still
so-
trying to compose
Like
myself.
this was
what we had to
difficult.
watch.
I haven't been this rattled by a piece of cinematic art in a long time.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it is the acting's so good, so you get so invested in the characters. Like Forrest Whitaker playing the fiddler, which was such a brilliant acting job from him. I just loved how he tried to embrace Kunta, and here he was, and they almost introduced him like sort of an Uncle Tom character at first, where it seemed like he'd really decided to placate the white guy and just do whatever he said. But then you saw him, he had a defiance to himself, and he wanted to see Kunta escape, and he tried to help Kunta escape.
He understood about creating like a revolution. It seemed like the fiddler was very battle tested. He probably in his younger years tried to rebel, and Fiddler had to figure out how to outsmart them at their own game.
Strategic, yeah. That's and I think of my mind frame, what mind frame I would have been in, and then what if you calculated like at the end of the second episode how he just ran out of the barn, and I was like, I kept thinking, what was your motivation? You have this girl that you care about, Kinsey, and stuff like that. So what in your head made you think this was a good plan? And the Fiddler, it seems like he had like a strategic plan, like let me help these young kids out, like older dudes do these days.
Because Fiddler said, I may never be free.
Yeah.
He understood it and he accepted the fact, I may never get out of here, but I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that you guys can at least have a fighting chance.
Exactly.
And that's what I liked. What I liked and almost didn't like about episode 2. So they were really good about giving you that sense of urgency. Like, these people are trying to escape and escape now because shit's going down.
Yeah.
You know, so
I
love it because it was like every moment Kunta had, he was like looking for a way out. But then they would jump time, so 6 years would pass, and I kept thinking, what happened during the 6 years? Like, was he just hanging out, or was he trying to escape? So I mean, I love the story. It's so rich that you just want to see more and more and more of it.
Yeah, it's incredible to me. The fact that Kunta, and we're going to say Kunta Kinte. On this show, he is Kunta Kinte. I'm not calling him Toby.
You rejected Toby.
I'm rejecting Toby. Yeah. I'm not calling that man Toby on this show. He is Kunta Kinte, damn it, all right? But it's so incredible to me. You say over these years, he always believed that he could get away.
Yes.
Yeah. He could not buy into the fact that I am now enslaved.
Yeah.
He couldn't. He couldn't.
I think if he let that go, he would have lost himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he let go of the fact that I will be free one day, what else do you have to hold on to?
But I wonder, just thinking about it, and I mean, this was never addressed in the show, but I wonder how long it took to basically break a slave's mental willpower.
Yeah.
Because Kunta Kinte, I mean, he's strong. And he never broke mentally.
Yeah.
But were the slaves, susceptible to 3 months being there, and they're like, okay, this is what it's going to be? I mean, I wonder how long that process took.
Well, it looked like he was the exception, and I think part of it was that he had been born free and he had been raised a warrior,
But do they ever really, I think in my head, do they ever really get broken, or did they just accept it?
Well,
this is my life. In my head, I would love to be free. I would love to get out, just start running off this plantation and get away. But this is what it is, and I don't want to die. It's either death, or this.
Well, I think I forget the overseer. I forget the overseer, but the first overseer says to him, You don't make a slave. You don't break a slave. You make a slave. And I think that's what it was. It was about making these slaves, like making that mentality and building that mentality for them. And so it was just so sad and disheartening to see. And then, we got a little comeuppance in episode 2 where Kunta gets back at that overseer.
It was incredible to me seeing all of those lashings on his body. Every time they showed his body, bare, all those lashings. And they said, I have tattoos. I'm like, why the hell do we put ourselves through that?
Yeah.
Knowing that our ancestors had to wear those scars. You know what I mean? And I don't know how.
I think it's
I almost regret tattoos now.
Yeah, well, I think it's a reminder because I don't know if y'all watch Underground, but I think he had tattooed those flesh wounds on his back as a reminder of what we're going through and what we need to get away from. And this guy was a constant runner. So I think it's like a constant reminder to some people. And that's what tattoos do too, right?
Yeah.
They remind people of memories.
And we have to talk about the iconic scene where he does break him in terms of saying Toby is his name. What did you guys think of that scene? Do you think it still has the same impact? Because I was impacted by it, but at the same time, I've seen so much goriness just with movies and television. Do you think it still has the same impact it had in 1977?
Were you impacted by 12 Years a Slave when Lupita's character got beat?
I'll be honest. I couldn't watch 12 Years a Slave. Yeah. I couldn't watch it.
It's a difficult watch. I mean, just like the show. But it's always going to be impactful. It's like you knowing something and then putting that visual to what you know.
Yeah.
It's powerful, and you can't get away from that. I mean, even if they didn't show this on TV, I know I saw an article where Snoop Dogg is mad because they made another slave TV show. Okay, well, we need to see this. There's plenty of TV shows about the colonels and everything else where they have no black people. I hate to say it, no black people in any of the cast. Like, we weren't even alive. Yeah. Just keep showing these stories because our younger generations don't know.
And it's history, and I think that was the point.
It is history.
Yeah, that was the point, is bringing this to a new generation.
It's history because we are living in in a current time in our American society where we are essentially seeing the same treatment of people who look like these slaves by those who were owning slaves. You know, I think that people would understand better if they were to really sit down and watch this and dissect this. And I think that's why they fought so hard to get it on air, because I think behaviors should and would change if people really took the time to watch this show.
Exactly.
Because this is going on.
I don't know if they would change, because it's not like something that people don't know went on, or and
I don't
the
think
abuse
people
that is
know.
going on
I don't
now.
think people know. I don't think people. I don't think we'd have rap music if people knew the kind of shit that we had to go through. I'm being honest. Like, I love Snoop. But if these young kids really knew, you know, what that style of music was even bred from.
But yeah, I would defend rap music in that sense, that it's storytelling. And I think it comes in derived.
Stories that they're telling.
Well, yeah, the stories that they're telling are different.
Yes.
Yeah, but the actual genre, I would say, is derived from the telling of these stories and a reflection of life. So
that's how slaves communicated,
and
was through storytelling and music.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. Okay, we got to go through this like step by step, because you can literally get so convoluted with breaking down this show.
Yeah.
So I don't want to jump ahead or anything, but there were so many synergies and similarities that, you know, you see today in 2016 to then, and it's just crazy. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Well, what I thought was the saddest part was just episode 2. I just thought the whole Missy-Kizzy friendship was one of the saddest things I saw, because it was almost things you see today, where it's sort of that ignorant racism.
Yeah.
You know, where
Exactly.
this was her friend, but she had a line that was marked that you were just lesser than I am.
And it happens so often.
And to her, there was no difference. Like, she thought she was treating this girl amazing. You know.
You know what it told me? It told me that racism is taught.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're not born
definitely.
racist.
Yeah.
Because this child, you know, was brought into this world without any corruption, without her mind being adulterated by circumstances. This little white girl, she had to be conditioned to start treating that young black girl like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But she always viewed her as her property.
Exactly.
You know, even to the very end, where she was like, "I was gonna let you have Mama buy you, and we were gonna, you know."
yeah, it all sounds so simple.
Yeah.
You know, for her.
Yeah, I think that's what was one of the most jarring scenes for me, was the pregnant slave, when she dies, and he goes to the guy, the other overseer, says, "Oh, she's coming out of your wages," and it was just like that moment
It's just
of
property.
nothing but property.
I just broke a chair. It's coming out your wages. Just killed a slave.
Yeah.
It's coming out your wages.
So let's get into Kunta Kinte losing his foot. Well, you know, part of his foot.
That was,
Can we
so
not
that was,
go back? We said we're not gonna bring it up.
Yeah, that was the second most jarring scene. Actually, that was harder to watch, I think, than the whipping earlier in episode 1, because his feet were his life. He was always running away, you know.
That scene. First of all, was there any disclaimer, like, when the show started? Like, there was some really graphic scenes?
yeah.
I don't recall seeing it.
nature.
I really don't. And I should know. I mean, hell, it's Roots. I mean, we've seen it. We know what's coming. Shit. But at the same time, like, I was not ready for the level of graphicness that was involved with these scenes. But seeing Kunta Kinte lose his foot. First of all, we're such weenies. We're weenies. We're wincing at the thought, just looking at him.
Before they even cut it, you were
before they
turned
even
away.
cut it, I'm down. You know, I'm just like, you know, you ain't no real warrior. I'm sitting here trying to defend my own blackness to myself. Like, you know, how you gonna say you come from these people and you can't even watch this? You know what I mean? Like, they had to live it. This was a real heart check. This show is a heart check if you are of African descent, for real. But that scene for me, that was really tough.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen the original, so I didn't know it was coming, because it felt like he was free, because he was fighting for the British, and he had the whole thing that, you know, marked that he was a free slave, essentially. And I just didn't see it coming.
It really pains me how the extent that they would go through to just take away the hope, cutting off his foot, so he couldn't run, because you knew that was his hope. Splitting them up from their families just to take away the hope. It's just like the extent that they went through. I'm just like, I'm seeing dogs get treated better in this day and age than what we were just watching, and how they treated slaves.
And I think part of that was, I found myself at the few moments where the slaves seemed happy and kind of hanging out. I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, they're having some normalcy. And I think that's probably what goes through your head if you're living in that environment, is that you find your comfort zone. And I think that was the scary part, is that, because I think if I'm a slave, I'm going to be fine. But eventually you find your comfort zone.
You know what pissed me off? So I'm going to get really ignorant, okay, during these after. Like, I'm not.
Piss me off.
You know what pissed me off?
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't cut off his whole foot. Because if they cut off his whole foot, think about, would he really be able to do anything if they cut off his whole
No.
Well, no,
foot?
but they still wanted property. They had
needed him.
So
their
it was all strategic.
Yes.
That's what made me so mad.
yeah.
It's like, I'm going to do just enough to damage your soul and your ego and your pride. But you still going to get your ass to work.
Yeah, and I think that like what would have happened if they'd had no monetary value, or they had no perceived monetary value? Like, how much worse would they have treated these people? You know. So it was definitely tough. So I love the whole love scene, or not love scene, but love story of Kunta and Belle. It's like the one kind of bright spot you can kind of maybe get lost in, you know, as you're watching this.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they say for every strong man, there's a strong woman. And I think the love between Belle and Kunta Kinte is a true testament of that, because everything about him was damaged. Yeah. Physically, emotionally. She nursed him back to health inside and out. Yeah. And, you know, for him, he was told back in Africa that, what are the 3 things you need in life?
Oh, yeah, first thing, number 1 is family to get married.
You gotta have family, you know what I mean? And she was an extension of that teaching, and she didn't even realize that's what the man had been taught. Yeah. She was just doing what a woman is naturally doing, nurturing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
She knew what she was doing, nurturing. That right back to the ring. She was like, I will be your wife. Yes, ready.
And Belle is the epitome of being selfless.
Yeah.
She's the epitome of being selfless.
She was mad.
And I love the whole jumping the broom scene, because, you know, they alluded to the fact that it might not have been like an African thing, which I'd always thought jumping the broom was. So I did a little research, and that it really arose out of that slave culture, because they weren't allowed to get married. Yeah. And so that was the only way to publicly signify that, hey, we're an official union. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the show touches up on how there's the African traditional way, and then there's your African Americans. Yeah. Because that's still something that we kind of deal with in this day and age. Yeah. That how this one culture, even though we look the same, we have the same skin color, our cultures are so different, because you know, this is how we did things over here, and this is how y'all are doing things
and we
here.
were forced to do things over here.
And we kind of were forced back then to come together and be like, hey, this ain't no you and us. This is us and them.
Yeah. And I like that from the episode 1 where they had the warring tribes, and Kunta says, hey, we're in this together now. Yes. Like, we have to.
We still are trying to learn that in this day and age.
It seems like it.
There are a lot of similarities to present day, you know,
a lot.
In the past. You can see there are certain areas where we haven't made a lot of progress. Yeah. And it's been hundreds of years.
Ask the children who Harriet Tubman is. That was my hero growing up. Yeah. This day and age, it's Amber Rose. I mean, they don't. This show is. That's how important these type of shows are. Yeah. They don't know. Yeah. You ask them anything about our culture, or they don't know.
They're gonna have to find. I mean, because this is really graphic. Yeah. I don't know if a middle schooler could handle it.
Or maybe make an edited school version.
But they're going to have to start incorporating this back into the American school system. They really are. Yeah.
But
see, the thing is, they don't need to make an edited version. They need to show that how it really is, so people really take it all in and see what it really is.
I mean, I feel you. But you know, there's sensitive parents out there. Yeah. It's the sensitive parents that I think would be all up in arms. But it needs to be incorporated back into the American school system. It really does.
Agreed. In some way or form. I'm not saying have.
I say show them everything. I say show them everything, but I just know.
Sign a waiver before you go to school that day.
We're sitting here.
Everybody watch it. Yeah. Not just little kids that look like us, or everyone.
Everybody needs to watch it. I mean, but like I was saying, we're coming off of the day after a gorilla being shot in a zoo, and people are all up in arms, and a child almost lost his life. You know, this little black child almost lost his life, and everybody's mad about it. But no, you're totally right. Hopefully, we can get a petition going and get Roots back into the American public school system.
They're calling this Roots the Black Lives Matter era. This was made for the Black Lives Matter era.
Yeah,
they're saying that this was specifically.
Hell, we keep getting shot.
Well, I think it is sort of a reminder that things have changed. We have to say that much. So things have come like a far, far away. Yes. But are there different threads and elements that were running then that are still running today?
It's all institutionalized.
so,
now.
yeah.
Everything is institutionalized now. Racism hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just institutionalized.
And I think one of the things this highlights, this series, is cycles. Just a cycle of everything happening over, people getting pulled from their parents, families being broken apart. And we saw that whole scene in episode 2 was so emblematic of what happened in episode 1, where Kunta is training Kizzy because I cannot protect you, so I need to make sure that you can at least protect yourself.
Which was so powerful.
Yeah.
Which was so powerful.
To show a father sitting here teaching his daughter to protect. Don't wait for a man to come and protect you. Protect yourself. Because, even when they go on a run, he's not going to be able to hold her hand like I thought he was going to protect the guy with the patch on. I'm like, you said you was going to protect me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Carlton has been soft since slavery. Like, it's so funny that Carlton on Fresh Prince was kind of soft, and then Carlton and Roos was kind of...
He touched you, Carlton.
Carlton, rest in peace, Carlton. But, what really, I'm not going to say hit home, but it was very powerful for me, was when Kunta Kinte told Kizzy, if somebody tries to rape you, you're going to have to be prepared to kill him, but also know that your mortality
is in the balance,
right? Right behind.
Because I think that was something I kept seeing it from Kunta, because he wasn't smart. He was always running, and I'm just like, you could die right now. Wait till this moment or that moment or that moment. And he was just so down for freedom, and he wanted it so badly. He didn't always wait to the right moments. And I think he really wanted to impart that to her, is that your life is always in the balance, especially if you decide to try to strike back.
Well, she came into the world with her life in the balance. We got to go back to the scene where Kunta Kinte and Fiddler go out into the woods, and all they're trying to do is name this child, and they're approached by, these white men. Fiddler has to lose his life, and in that moment, I saw a lot of growth from Kunta Kinte, because he wanted to fight. He wanted to drop the baby. He didn't know what to do. Everything in his warrior being was like, I got to do this. But then he's got the future of his bloodline in his hands, and he's got to make a decision based on getting her to a point of independence. Like, he had to grow in the matter of 30 seconds.
Yeah. And
that was a crazy scene for me.
And that was double growth, because that was growth from Fiddler. Because Fiddler was the kind of guy that was like, I'm not a fighter. I'm not going to fight. I'll do what I can to help you. Yeah. But here was this moment where he said, this is worth more than my life. Yeah. And he took
Fiddler's
his moment.
had years. Yeah. He's had years. He done played all the songs he could play. Yeah. He sees his child with a father who loves her.
And he stepped up and said, this is my time to make my sacrifice. And that was just...
Yeah, Fiddler was very wise, and he realized that the only way that they were going to make it out of this was to stick together.
Yeah.
And everybody's not going to make it. Yeah. But if we come together in some type of way, form, some of us going to get out of here, and we have history.
You know what I love about this scene, though? Fiddler he went out the way Kunta Kinte taught him.
Yeah.
Right? Because, Fiddler was always saying, your name is Toby. Yeah. If these white folks call you Toby, just respond to Toby. And Kunta Kinte is like, no, my name is Kunta Kinte. Before Fiddler left this earth, he said, my name is George.
Yeah. he got his,
I love that. That was a great scene.
His inner Kunta Kinte.
It's not Fiddler.
Yeah. My name is not Fiddler.
And I love how his name was George.
He was born to slavery.
He was born to slavery. So he was born with an American name, but damn it, his name was George. So before you take my life, know who you're killing.
Exactly.
You're killing George. That was powerful. I don't think people understood the power of that scene.
I think he realized the power of the name when he saw Kunta not letting go of the power of his name. Because he tells Kunta, go by Toby, but Kunta's still inside. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I just loved just the way they kind of weave that narrative together.
Yeah.
Through both episodes. So towards the end of episode 2, things don't go so well. The minute you start to get comfortable with stuff, okay, there's some sort of nuclear family.
They start feeling normal. Yeah. Everything starts feeling normal for them. They have a family. They have a place to live. She's making friends
with the master's
Bella's
daughter.
cooking food, and they're sitting down at a table like a family and eating together.
And she's learned to read, and that she can teach others. And it almost seemed too good to be true, which I guess we should have seen some bad stuff coming.
They had their eye on it. They saw that her being friends with the slave master's daughter wasn't going to end well. They kept on saying, well, Kenzie, but there's only so much they could have done.
Kunta Kinte was always trying to keep a nice boundary when it came to Kizzy and the young white girl, you know, in their relationship. Because he knew, like, I want her to
Kizzy and Missy.
Kizzy and Missy. That's
Missy.
sorry. And I'm not trying to be offensive, okay? Look, we have been watching this show. I'm not trying to be offensive when I say white girl, okay? I'm just saying she's a white girl. But you could see that Kunta Kinte was trying to, you know, create a little bit of a boundary so she never got too comfortable.
But it was that boundary didn't exist and really couldn't exist because at the end of the day she was Missy's property. So when Missy wanted to hang out and she said, "Come on," you know.
I thought it was crazy that they ran into the what did you call them, abolitionists?
Yeah, the Christian group.
Yeah, the Christian group.
Yeah. They at least showed you that there were some people who were white.
They're
going to
come back into play, though.
Yeah.
They're going to come back into play.
Yeah. And so yeah, how did you guys feel about that whole scene with Kizzy getting taken away and Missy almost turning her back on Kizzy?
It didn't shock me.
Surprising?
It didn't shock me.
Exactly.
I mean, what did you expect her to do? At the end of the day, no matter how innocent Missy came into the world, she's still around a business of slavery that's based off of race. She's not going to turn her back on her father, on the business. I mean, hell, that's just human nature. I'm not going to turn my back on the money. It didn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
I thought she would say worse things than that.
Yeah. And it also showed you in that scene when Kunta says, "I'm going to tell your brother essentially that you're cheating with his wife." He said, "Anyone's going to believe your word?"
Yeah, exactly.
No, but what was funny to me was Massa was so bold. He was like, before Kunta could even get it out, he said, "About my brother and his wife."
He was saying it loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Hell, I'll say it." I'm not gonna. Basically, what he said, "I'm not gonna let some black slave expose me. I can expose myself."
Yeah.
And he tried to appeal to him, like, you have a daughter too.
Yeah.
Kunta said, "You have a daughter too," and I just don't understand why they couldn't feel for them on that level.
Because it's
Like, this
business.
is
Like
my
these
child.
these white masters had got to a point where they were desensitized.
And this was and he was the nice one. So it was regardless of how close they were.
The nice one.
They were still property. They were just not humans.
which is scary because you think that, oh, he's the nice one.
Yeah.
But at a moment's notice, it all goes back to
You're still property.
Because you get fooled into thinking that he's allowing this close relationship with Missy because he's starting to value Kizzy as a person. No, he values Kizzy as Missy's property.
Yes.
And so it's just like Missy taking her most prized, security blanket, wherever she goes. That's her property. I'm going to take care of that property.
I mean, hell, Massa even wished Kizzy a happy birthday.
Yeah.
Nice white Massa. Wish her a
yeah,
happy
right
birthday.
before it's like, "I'm gonna breed you like a horse."
And then the very next scene, he's talking about preparing her to give birth to a child and says breed her.
Yeah.
Not, I'm gonna find a nice young man for you. I'm gonna breed you.
I was done after that. I was like,
That made me sick
Is
to
she an
my
animal?
stomach.
And to see what happens to Kizzy, the rape, and then the subsequent child. So you had said something about, because there was that one scene where she goes in the water, and I'm thinking, it looks like they were saying she was about to kill the child. That's what it looked like, right?
That's not uncommon back in the slave days that
A lot of
women
people
with
kill their
children.
kids.
Yeah, because they didn't want their kid to grow up in
Hell,
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
why would you want your baby to have to deal with that? But wait, are we gonna talk about the young curly-haired
no?
Drake-looking young man? Shout out to Drizzy with the cameo in Roots. I was like, okay.
He did not look like Drake. He kind of threw it off with the curls in the front.
First of all, whose child was he? Because he was not born to two black slaves.
Well, I think he may have been the master's son.
Yeah, that wasn't
Was he?
uncommon either.
Yeah, because the way he yelled.
I never figured that part out.
Because he yelled for Noah as if that's my son, but not.
Nah,
He ain't gonna claim him.
If it happens, it happens.
He ain't gonna claim him like he was full white. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
that's my seed, but
Yeah, that was that was a tragedy for Kizzy. Yeah.
that was, they were starting to connect. Like I was really rooting for Kizzy and Noah to, if they were to consummate, if you will, okay? Let's be politically correct. If they were to consummate their union and have a baby, at least it was kind of on their terms. They read together. They had a semblance of a budding relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then she got to lose her man like that. I mean, that hurt.
And then
You know how many times I fell in love with a little curly haired boy? At least I got to break up with him. Kizzy had to. This series makes me so mad. Like, I'm not gonna be able to go to work.
You gotta take a break. Take a 24
I'm
hours.
not gonna be able to work.
I read a great quote by Anika Rhodes. There were so many different argument sides of why is there another slave show, man? Why is this blah blah blah?
Because we're still slaves,
Yeah.
girl. We're out here. We're still slaves. Kanye said it. We're just the new slaves,
And
girl.
what Mrs. Rose said was, with regard to black people, I think they are tired of seeing themselves enchained and tied down.
We are.
Those depictions are one-sided, designed to humiliate. Time to move past shame, embarrassment, guilt, and anybody who survived slavery did so with a fortitude of superhero proportions. I thought that was such an amazing statement that she said, just to like combat what naysayers are saying against showing this type of things. I think it needs to be seen. You know how we were in there just we were cringing, and it brought so many emotions out, and there's not a lot of TV doing that right now.
Yeah, and as shocked as I was by the atrocity, I was still very. My feeling was a sense of pride that these people weren't giving up and they were living and being resilient.
Yes.
And Kunta's still trying to escape, and Kizzy's learning, and she's strong. So
And it
And that's what we
humanizes
need.
it humanizes the slaves. They weren't just slaves. You know, some people just, that another slave show. No, these were human beings going through a very extremely difficult time. Anything we think that we're going through right now that's difficult, times that by 100.
Yeah.
And that's what they're racism, death, beating, all of that times by 100, and that's what they're going through.
But for African Americans who don't want to see this, you need to see it because we can. I mean, I look. Don't crucify me for saying this, but we can be soft. We can be soft.
No, true.
Okay.
Very true. Very
This
true
is a
statement.
reminder that you have the blood of warriors, literal warriors through your body.
And so far, to me, it's been a celebration of the African American spirit. You know, it hasn't been. It hasn't felt like, oh, we're just a beaten down, downtrodden group. It's been inspirational. It's been uplifting.
So with that, take your ass to work. I take that back. Go to work and be proud.
Exactly.
Okay, Anna, the same way you was feeling after you saw Formation from Beyonce, Lemonade, is the same way you'll be feeling after watching Roots.
Exactly.
People was walking around with their hands hot, drinking some lemonade. I was like, okay.
Shout out to the Beyonce cameo in Roots. You know, we see Kizzy making some great lemonade. And Beyonce.
Those bright moments.
Yeah, and Beyonce used a lot of plantation and you know, vintage looks in her creative artwork for Formation and Lemonade. So
yeah, maybe they coordinated somehow.
I feel like she knew this was coming.
But yeah, I don't know. I love this show so far, the miniseries. But to me, it should be called Uprooted because that's all I'm really feeling. I'm feeling this great spirit from people, but at the same time, it just seems like there's nothing that is ever whole, nothing that's constant and good for these people, and it's kind of awful.
I love that roots comes, the term where we say, I want to find our roots comes from that, where you want to find your identity, your association, where you came from. And I love how that's what the title of this show is, Roots. So it's teaching us about going back and finding ourselves.
But you gotta realize this is the closest that people who look like us will ever have to Ancestry.com. I can't go on Ancestry.com and really learn much. I think it goes back maybe 2 or 3 generations. But we don't have a history. No. So you never know. You could be looking at somebody who is directly related to you. You know what I mean? Like, this is the closest we'll ever get. Yeah. We don't have the luxury of being able to go back in time and know our ancestors to that point in history. We don't have the luxury of that. So I think people should watch it and try to identify with the character, because that could have been your great, great, great whatever the hell.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of this miniseries. It's been so exciting so far.
Oof. Before we start wrapping things up, I do want to talk about just Belle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because Belle was so hurt, and I wonder how Belle's relationship will be with Kunta Kinte as things go along. Because she said, like, you can't take my child. I've lost children before.
And this was the last. And she said, like, I cannot lose this child.
So I wonder if that's going to create a strain with them.
And he said, I will protect you.
He said, I'll
promise.
But there was nothing he could do in that moment when Kizzy was taken away.
I mean, I don't know. I don't, possibly a strain, but to me, it just seems there's so much coming at them just in this world. How would you...
No, that's like the top. That's taking your child away. As a black man, I mean, you can't do anything. Your hands are tied. They might as well just tie his hands behind his back.
Yeah.
But I imagine Belle and Kunta would be closer because they're still facing so much from the world. But I don't know.
I am very proud of Kizzy, though, for remembering the teachings of her father when she was in, what was his name? The farm? the guy's farm in North Carolina.
The Waller farm?
No. When she wakes up in this farm and before she gets raped.
Oh, the late Tom Lee.
Yeah. You could tell she was remembering everything her father said.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're about to be raped, if you're gonna kill him, be ready to die too. Yeah. Kizzy was ready. She was like, "Yo, I'm not taking it like this."
So was that? Yeah. Let's go with magic moments. Was that your magic moment of the series so far?
That was as a woman who had a father who tried to teach me everything. That was really powerful for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you never know when your parents' teachings will really hit you. Yeah. She got it at that moment.
How about you? What was your magic moment of the series so far?
Oh, my magic moment. Yeah. I'm just gonna say a moment that stuck out to me because the magic, I'm still kind of discombobulated from watching all of that. The moment that stuck out for me was the part where they used them as body shields for some reason. That was just so nasty and ugly to me when they said, don't move off of this, knowing that they were going to get ambushed, and said, here's your freedom. You fight or you die, and these were their choices, and they used them as body shields, pretty much. Like, again, it goes back to just property. Yeah, I guess that just stayed with me for some reason.
Yeah, I think for me, just watching Kizzy contemplating killing her child to not have this life, that's that's an emotion I can't relate to, but I can see the depth of it. I can maybe try to relate to that, but it's just so much deeper. Yeah,
it's super deep,
and so that really underscored this time and what's really happening. So. Well, we've got episodes 3 and 4. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday, so make sure to catch up with us. Download us on iTunes, give us 5 stars, watch us on YouTube. We want to hear your comments, your questions, anything you got for us. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shaka Strong.
You can find me on social media when sports and pop culture collide at McCall Hall.
You can find me on all social medias at Erica J. Green, Erica J-A-Y-E Green.
So please join us next week, and we'll see you guys.
Next week, we'll see him on Thursday.
Thursday.
We'll be back here on Thursday, and we're doing a full hour. I'm coming here early. I'm gonna have all my tea. We're going really in, so have your popcorn ready
and your Kleenexes.
Yeah.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.